Hi, and welcome to this channel, Investor's Empire. Today we will be discussing the detainment of Samuel Bankman-Fried. Remember to like, comment, and subscribe for more investment and crypto videos. Now let's get into this video.
Sam Bankman-Fried, CEO of FTX, has been arrested in the Bahamas. The U.S. has filed criminal charges against the 30-year-old, and reports now suggest they include wire fraud, securities fraud, and money laundering. Sbf is now being held in custody, and the Bahamas is anticipating that an extradition request will be submitted. Meanwhile, the SEC has confirmed that it has authorized charges of its own. Sbf remains in custody and spent the night in a jail cell. He is due to appear in a court later today for testimony. And if you are looking forward to Sbf's testimony in front of the House Financial Services Committee later today, well, you've probably figured out by now that's not happening right now. In a statement, Maxine Waters said that the current CEO of FTX, the American public deserves to hear directly from Mr. Bankman-Fried about the actions that have harmed over 1 million people and wiped out the hard-earned life savings of so many. Nonetheless, she said it was about time that the process to bring Sbf to justice has begun, and finally, Sbf will not be in the attendance. But the committee's hearing is still going ahead. John Ray and ousted CEO Sam Bankman-Fried are expected to testify in front of House. The House Financial Services Committee confirmed that the former FTX CEO, Sam Bankman-Fried, and the current FTX CEO, John J. Ray III, will both be attending and testifying what Congress is calling investigating the collapse of FTX. During Sbf's time running, the company said unacceptable management practices include executives being able to access systems, storing customer assets, private keys, storing hundreds of millions of dollars worth of crypto stored without any encryption, and elevator research being allowed to borrow funds directly from FTX without any effective limits. John Ray will also highlight a spending binge that saw $5 billion spent on a plethora of businesses and investments, many of which may be worth only a fraction of what was paid for them. John J. Ray III released his statement 24 hours in advance. He says, while many things are unknown at this stage and many questions remain, we know the following 6 things. I'm going to take you through it 24 hours in advance. So John J. Ray, the current FTX CEO, is going to be Congress's first panelist of FTX CEO, followed by Sam Bankman-Fried. So let's start with what John J. Ray is likely to say. First of all, remember when John J. Ray III mentioned that FTX had no accounts on their payroll. This is true, and it will likely come up in the hearings. Not to mention that Sam Bankman-Fried explained to Bloomberg Business recently that FTX's accounting was done by him and his head. Quote, "I was real lazy about the mental math. We'll talk about this strategy a little bit later." Coming back to the 6 main points as a part of John J. Ray's statement. Number 1, customer assets from FTX were commingled with assets from Alameda trading platform. Number 2, Alameda used client funds to engage in margin trading, which exposed customer funds to massive losses. Number 3, the FTX group went on a spending binge in late 2021 through 2022, during which approximately $5 billion was spent buying a myriad of businesses and investments, many of which may be worth only a fraction of what was paid for them. Number 4, loans and other payments were made to insiders in excess of $1 billion. Number 5, FTX stored certain private keys to crypto assets without effective security controls. And number 6, FTX used computer infrastructure that gave senior management access to systems that stored customer assets. These were the 6 main points that John Ray is going to use in his statement. Now the question that arises is that he mentioned all these 6 points in his main points, or maybe he did more than that. Let's have a look at that.
What we're seeing, though, is that the crypto assets for both FTX.com and for FTX US, were housed in the same database. It's called the AWS system, which is just an acronym for Amazon Web Services. It was all housed in the same web format.
And is that distinct from Alameda's assets?
I don't know the basis for his comment. I will note that he owned 90% of Alameda. This one is unusual, and it's unusual in the sense that literally, there's no record keeping whatsoever. It's in the absence of record keeping. Employees would communicate, invoicing and expenses on Slack, which is, essentially a way of communicating for chat rooms. They use QuickBooks, a multi-billion-dollar company using QuickBooks. QuickBooks. Nothing against QuickBooks, it's a very nice tool, just not for a multi-billion-dollar company.
A lot of investors have lost their money in the scam of Sam Bankman-Fried of FTX. One of them is Kevin O'Leary. Kevin O'Leary, investor, Shark Tank judge, he has lost over $15 million. FTX paid him to act as a spokesman. Kevin O'Leary said, "Total deal was just under $15 million. All Eni put about $9.7 million into crypto. I think that's what I lost. I don't know. It's all at zero." He also said he had more than $1 million of FTX equity, now rendered worthless by the bankruptcy protection process. Kevin O'Leary had a testimony about Sam Bankman-Fried on the collapse of FTX and how he lost all of his $15 million. Let's have a look at that.
So let me ask you directly. You were an investor in FTX, and I know you've spoken frequently with Sam Bankman-Fried over an extended period of time. Why do you believe FTX failed?
I have an opinion. I don't have the records. Here it is. After my accounts were stripped of all of their assets and all of the accounting and trade information, I couldn't get answers from any of the executives in the firm, so I simply called Sam Bankman-Fried and said, "Where is the money, Sam?" He said he had been refused access to the servers. He no longer knew. I said, "Okay, let's step back. This is a simple case in my mind of where did the money go?" And I said, "Sam, walk me back 24 months. Tell me the use of proceeds of the assets of your company. Where did you spend it?" And then he told me about a transaction that occurred over the last 24 months, the repurchase of his shares from Binance, his competitor. I didn't know this at the time, but at some point, CZ or Binance, who runs Binance, purchased 20% ownership in Sam Bankman-Fried's firm for seed stock. And then, over time, and I asked him, what would compel you to spend $2 billion was the number he was giving me at that time. Later, in a subsequent conversation, about 24 hours later, he told me it could have been as much as $3 billion to buy back the shares from CZ. I asked him, what would compel you to do that? Why wouldn't you keep your assets on your balance sheet? And why would you offer this to just one shareholder? He said, because every time we went to get licensed in different jurisdictions, because you must understand the prize of crypto is to get regulated. For all the talk we say about Bitcoin and everything else, no institutions own this. I work for the sovereign wealth and pension plans. They don't touch this stuff because it's unregulated. Between these two, let's call them frenemies, because they obviously were potentially the two largest shareholders in the firm, they had a disagreement. They had a falling apart. The only option the management and Sam Bankman-Fried had was to buy him out at an extraordinary valuation of close to $32 billion, less apparently a 15% discount. That stripped the balance sheet of assets. You ask me why it went bankrupt? Go to the last week.
That brings us to the end of the video. I hope everyone enjoyed the video. We will keep you guys updated as soon any new news updates happens about the Sam Bankman-Fried. Until then, let us know your thoughts in the comments section below. And don't forget to like and subscribe. Thanks for watching.